Our next presenter, some of you will have met before, Ned Coten. Ned's been involved with School Sport Australia for probably 6 or 8 years. He first presented at a conference in Adelaide, but we're claiming him from South Australia as our own, not South Australia's find. Ned's got a branding and marketing background. He's the Deputy Chair of Basketball Australia. He's a consultant to School Sport Victoria. He's got several business interests himself. He essentially works for himself. He's a sports lover, and he's always a great presenter. Ned's someone that's at the top of his game wherever he goes. So thanks for coming along, Ned.
That's a big introduction. I won't use the microphone. I've got a big voice, so hopefully everyone can hear me. And just for the record, I'm West Australian. And always will be. Just for the guys in the front corner here. Look, it's great to be back. I have been involved with both School Sport Australia and School Sport Victoria for a while. I can't actually remember, Brad, where you're somewhere in the room. I think you might have been one of the instigators in getting involved in the first place. But it's always been fantastic. I love this group, and as Nick said, had a lifelong involvement in sport and really enjoyed it. Nick has asked me to come along and just talk a little bit about branding. I first got involved in School Sport Australia and School Sport Victoria through my branding and marketing background, and we actually did the brand development for School Sport Australia. Today I want to probably just take that to the next level, and we were going to do, because we've run a little bit over time, Nick's chopped me off at the knees somewhat, and we've sort of reduced the amount of time, so I've taken a few slides out of the presentation, and we might just, we were just going to do a little workshop for 10 minutes, but we may do that as a wider group. We'll see how we're going for time. So I might just get Nick or someone just to keep me attuned on time, so I know how we're going. So why are we here? I want to really talk today about the brand message. So the way that, and for those of you that have seen me speak before, the way that I describe a brand is a person's gut feeling about a product or a service or an organisation. So a gut feeling is how you feel emotively when you engage with something. As part of the pre-work for this, Nick actually sent some stuff out. I'm not sure how many people had a chance to read through it, but I'd be interested in how many people watched the Simon Sinek video. If you could just maybe put your hands up just so I've got a bit of an idea. We'll talk a little bit about it. For those that haven't seen it, it's an absolutely fabulous video in terms of how you engage people from a marketing perspective, and I would say how you engage students in what you do every day, but particularly in your own school sport environment. I think it's really insightful. So happy to send that link out. I really want a question from school sport. What makes school sport different? School Sport Australia and each of your state organisations. What is it that makes you different? And we'll get into some detail about that. And I'd like to sort of workshop it for a few minutes. And by different, I don't mean that we offer better service or our coaches are really good or something like that, because anybody that's in sport can say that. What I'm really looking for is to challenge ourselves, is to find out what's the essence of school sport and what makes school sport different. And I've certainly got a view myself, and it would be really interesting to find out from people around the room what you think. And then I guess the last thing is to see what actions we can take as a result of that. So Simon Sinek, I won't sort of try and repeat the whole video here, but the essence of what he says is start with why. So in any selling environment or any marketing environment, and we are all in the selling business, whether we like it or not, because what we're doing is we're selling sport and school sport and our organisation to the children and to the parents and to the other teachers and to government organisations and to community organisations. We're in the business of selling what we're about. And I think that this concept can be really powerful for school sport, because I think you have some unique features that you can really build your message on. And so what Simon Sinek talks about is something he calls the golden circle. And one of the examples, he gives a number of examples, but the premise of his philosophy is this. Most people, when you ask them what they do, they talk about what they do. So if we were to say, what do? We engage kids in sport. That's what we do. And most people will say, well, that's what we do. If you say, you know, what is it that this organisation does? We engage kids in sport. So pretty much every organisation has a what. They know what they do. The next level is how they do it. So for this group, how you do it is through schools. You engage children, have regional championships, state championships, and national championships based on school and based on the fact that they're a participant in school, and teachers are coaches, and parents get involved from time to time, and the organisation might, or the events might go from state to state. What doesn't happen very often is the last thing. Why do you do it? What is it? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning? What gets you out of bed in the morning? And what is it that makes children and participants want to engage in school sport? And the examples that Simon Sinek gives are excellent. So he talks about Martin Luther King, and why was Martin Luther King such a successful orator? Why was he, in his environment, so successful? There were lots of other people who were talking about civil rights at the time. There were lots of other people that had a far better platform than him, and there were lots of other people that could talk like he could talk. The reason that he was so successful is because he had a why. And his why was, I have a dream. I have a dream about how the world could be. He didn't say, I want the segregation to stop, or I want the government to do something. He said, I have a dream about the way the future could be. He really had a why. And when he turned up at the in Washington at the Washington Memorial, remember this was 30 or 40 years ago. There was no Twitter, there was no Facebook. There were newspapers, but there was no advertising about what he was going to do. And 250,000 people turned up to hear him speak through word of mouth. And the reason was because he had a why. He wasn't talking about the things he was doing, he was talking about why we do it. So another good example that I like to talk about is Ernest Shackleton. I'm not sure how many people know this. You probably all know who Ernest Shackleton is. But in 1914, he set out he'd already lost the opportunity to be the first person to reach the South Pole. So he wanted to be the first person to traverse from one side to the other. And what he did was, he didn't have a lot of money, he didn't have a lot of resources, but what he had was this idea. And to me, that ad that he put in the paper says it all. You know, hazardous journey, men wanted for hazardous journey to the South Pole. Small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger. Safe return doubtful. Honour and recognition in case of success. That's the why. Honour and recognition in case of success. And as you can maybe see at the bottom, he was overwhelmed with responses. He literally had thousands of responses to that ad. And it wasn't because people wanted the bitter cold and the danger. What they wanted was the recognition. They wanted the why. That was the why for them. So what I'm going to challenge you on through this presentation is, what's our why? Why is it that we want to be involved? Teachers, government, parents and students want to be involved. What's our why? And why should anyone care about what we do? So if you think about, the students and I guess yourselves as participant and teachers and others, what is it that makes them want to come and be part of a School Sport Australia or a School Sport Victoria or a School Sport WA event? Because they can all go and play sport outside of school. They can all go and play Auskick. They can all go and play Aussie hoops in basketball or tennis that we've just seen outside before. They can do those things. So what is it? What's our message about why they should do school sport? What's our message to governments about why they should support us instead of going and spending money on a whole range of other areas? What is it that we can do and we have that's different, that no one else can replicate? people have got multiple choices. And the choices are not just about sport. So, as I'm sure you know, and if my kids are, not probably the same as many of the students that you see, they've got lots and lots of other things that they can do. They've all got devices, usually 2 or 3 at a time. So they're sitting watching the TV with their iPad or laptop, and they've got their phone in front of them and their earphones on, right? So they've got all of that happening. And then they've also got, AFL on TV, NBA on television, all these other things that are coming at them. Why is it that they should choose to do sport through school? Or why should their parents say, wow, it's better for them to actually get engaged in school sport than it is with any of these other organisations and places? When people are thinking about something, they ask 2 questions. And this is it's not just around sport, this is for anything. If you're buying anything, they ask 2 things. The first thing they ask, is this the thing I need? And then they ask, is this the place to get it from? Right? So, once again, in our case, let's say I'm a parent. Do I need sport? Yeah, I want my kids to play sport. Right? Where do I get it from? The first thing is our product. Right? So that's a product. And I would argue that making your product 10% better, so getting a better coach or having a better equipment, is not the thing to focus on. It's a hygiene factor for what we do. If we're not good at doing that, then we're not going to be in the game. But it's not going to separate us from everybody else that is involved in sport. The thing that's going to separate us is our message or our brand about why people want to do it. So if we want to grow our organisation and we want to get more kids and more teachers and others involved, it's the message and about why we're doing something that's going to make the biggest difference. Having better quality of product will make a difference. I'm not saying that won't, and I'm not saying you don't have to have a great product, you do. But improving, if you've got effort to put into one of these 2 things, your product's already great. You're already delivering a fantastic product. Think about the way that you sell that message and the way that you talk about what you do to other people. So the question I'm asking you is, what makes us stand out? One of my favourite quotes comes from Lady Gaga, and I think this is really, Lady Gaga essentially is a manufactured superstar. She was not particularly good looking, didn't have a lot of talent, but worked and worked and worked for 10 years to build this persona around who she was. She's not a great singer, she's a good singer, she's not a great singer. But she's different. She goes and does things differently. And this quote sort of summarises what she's done. Now, love her or hate her, you have to respect what she's done. You look at me and laugh because I'm different. I look at you and laugh because you're all the same. And I think that's a really, really great quote. Because we don't want to step outside the boundary. We don't want to say that we're, a little bit different. We go, well, this is how footy does it, this is how basketball does it, this is how our state organisation does it. So we just need to have a little tweak on that. And I'm saying no. I'm saying go into, some of you may know about a strategy that's called Blue Ocean Strategy. Go and find an ocean that no one else is playing in and be the king of that ocean. Don't try and compete in the red ocean, which is where everybody else is. Let's go and find a totally different environment through our message to play in a different space. And that's exactly what she's done. So our task, and we might actually, what I might do here is we might just maybe just split up on your tables. We might just spend, much longer have we got, Nick?
We have got 25 minutes.
25 minutes, 27, I'm taking 27. So what I'm going to do is let's spend 10 minutes on this task in front of us, and then I'm just going to maybe just get one person from each table to come back with a few dot points. We're going to do just 2 things. We're going to identify what makes us really different, and then we're going to work out what I call how we're going to rock our difference. So how are we going to let people know that we're different? And that doesn't necessarily mean through advertising and putting posters and things up, that might be part of it. But what are we going to do and focus on and be that's going to be different in the future than what we're doing at the moment? So I want to challenge you to think really differently. Go right out there, right? Go, be crazy here, right? So think really broadly about what you can do. And let's have laser focus on exactly what we're doing, right? We're thinking about things that are going to make us absolutely different. So in your group of the tables, let's just spend the next 10 minutes thinking about stuff that is really different. So even if you just itemise the things that either are different or could be different. What could be different or what is different right now?
Sport Australia or
I think sport in general.
So it's not just, the question is not just why we're different, but what could be different as well. So not necessarily how we exist now, but I mean,
Sorry, hang on.
the key word that comes to mind, and I need to explore this a bit more, is why we're different. The key thing that holds us together is that we're an education community. But that itself doesn't make us different. Because I think every organisation of sport would say, well, we educate our players or we educate our staff or we...
I see that more as how we are different, the education aspect, rather than the why. I think the why we need to look at why do we have educational components, why, so I'd be saying finance.
So can I just interrupt for a second? Think about this in two ways. Think about the actual thing that's different and then how you're going to deliver it. So two separate things. What is the thing? And the thing can be delivered in 100 different ways, and then how is it going to be delivered? Right? So what's the thing and how is it going to be delivered?
What makes us really different.
I think an important part of that is the philosophy of the teachers. Do they care about kids?
So our personnel part.
Well, I think it's about their philosophy. Certainly the best at them anyway.
I think you're right.
In clubs, a lot of coaches are about ego.
But that's what's different. What's different about us is that we
Well, teachers and then the why is because they have different essentially
because they
you go into a room of non-teachers and people straight away go, you're a teacher, aren't you? Why would they do that? I don't know, like I get it really, they go, you're a teacher.
that presentation that you went to over March 4th about Australian football. I got out of all of that. All the stuff that was up on the screen. The key thing that I got out of the message as a set was, I'm an ex-teacher. Now straight away, that made me think, so the next time I'm talking to AFL and I'm talking to Mark Griffin,
He gets it.
I'm talking to someone who's been a teacher. That makes a difference to me. If he's an administrator or a businessman or a corporate or whatever, I'm going to talk to him differently. I'm going to talk to a person who's been a teacher because I think people get it. And I hear this often. Teachers get it.
That's why many teachers make us coaches.
Yeah.
Because teaching and coaching.
Okay, how do we block that difference?
So why are we different? Is it because teachers get it? Is that
Well, yeah.
our...
I think that's our,
Is that a reasonable sort of statement to make about why we're different?
That's part of it.
And part of that philosophy, that part of that getting it, we can list and understand it is. The one that got me was the one that said, Mr. wasn't my PE teacher, but I could talk to him about sport, and that made me want to learn. And I went, he gets that teacher really, he talks to that kid about sport.
understand makes that engaged.
I'll give it another 2 or 3 minutes, guys.
Best
Next one
performance.
out of the pump.
So how do we use them? How do we rock our difference?
Well, one of the key things is to ensure that teachers are actually embedded in, so whether it's as the key influences in state sporting organisations or the key influences in government or the key,
So get teachers into all stakeholder positions, so media, government, SSOs, positions.
See, I think,
All positions of power.
and I think that we've had examples in government of where teachers.
So a couple of minutes, and what I'll get each group to do is come up with one thing and how you're going to make it, how you're going to rock it, how you're going to make it work.
I'm not quite sure.
I don't know, like that's one side of it. You know, putting teachers in those positions. But the why factor for us is we're sort of doing it naturally as the engagement teacher.
But there are teachers.
Very proud. Yeah, no, it's a great job. Fantastic.
It's amazing how much
So 1 minute, 1 minute.
And then you say we do want to be involved. I honestly think you can't sum it up better. I mean, like it is essentially it's the philosophy and it is all of these things that you can talk about it forever. But to teachers is your answer. Like who is our competitor? So why would we come and play some sport as clubs or that's right. Yeah. So I think we can answer it by knowledge of the same
the older I get, the more I realise some of the things that teachers do because they there's people who are drawn to.
but also,
All right, guys, let's close it up there.
you become the people you're surrounded with as well, and teachers tend to be around teachers.
If I just get everyone to just
characteristics.
hold the conversation. Folks at the back, Brad.
That's where you do your clap, your teacher comes.
Shut up, Brad. So we need a scribe. Does someone want to be the scribe? I'm going to throw the pen at someone. Okay. We'll save the best till last over here. Who's it? One idea and one how you're going to rock it.
With Australia-wide access to children through education.
So the idea is, okay, Australia-wide access to...
That's what we're different. No one else has that capability.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure about right now difference, but we said quality school sport program in every community.
Quality school sport program in every community, okay? Excellent.
idea was we are the first point of contact. We open the door for future opportunity and success.
So the first point of contact for sport?
Yes.
Yep.
And then we hid under the rock. We found the rock hard. Yeah. We felt, that we have a more holistic approach as educators, but I don't know whether that's necessarily rocket as such.
Okay.
Sorry, Meredith.
Holistic approach as educators.
Sorry, in our discussions, Chris did come up, I think, with a good slogan,
Yeah.
maybe a starting point.
Yeah, excellent.
Open the doors to future success, so the success is
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Excellent. Very good thinking. Open doors for future success.
Yeah, we've discussed the unique position that we as a group are in terms of our participants, and believe that creation of opportunity is special for us as a group.
Creation of opportunity? Yep.
Rock difference, we talked about the really strong personal promotion of success stories come out of the organisation.
So talking about
focus on participants, athletes.
So talking about participants who have been through a school sport environment and have had success following that?
Exactly.
Yep. Great. So to be sort of come ambassadors and talk about the program and
More than that, and the field is quite wide in the sense of the number of sports that we have involved. So it becomes a potential for a terrific teacher for all students. So that's a little to the previous suggestions of Group 2.
okay, fantastic. Not sure how it's all working down the back there. We've got a sort of table on the wall. I don't know if you guys are participating with this group. We'll go to the table.
We were talking about what makes school sport special.
Yeah.
And it does come from where it starts, with the school environment.
Yeah.
Representing the school spirit. And it's education through sport, finding your teacher champions. Talked at the very beginning of the day about that teacher being the inspiration for a lot of people, and that's where it can start. And we can make more about teacher champions, perhaps. And I think broader picture to Rocket, to keep what's special about us, is to work more closely with our national sporting organisations as well, that assist us, so we're not competing and losing our participants to those events, but keeping what's special about us and working with them to make that combined with perfect cricket today and golf today, about how we can work closely together to keep what's special about us.
So what you're saying is that the thing that makes it special is the relationship with the school environment, and the teacher being the person who can inspire students to do more? Yeah? Yep, excellent. In the back?
This group decided we have a philosophy regarding participation, we do equity, court, or game time, and teacher values within our delivery, with the capacity to do things differently, such as social and cultural elements.
So just explain that again.
The first part was around the philosophy that we believe makes us different. And that was in terms of the teacher values that we present within our delivery, and also in terms of the equity that we provide.
Excellent.
Okay, and what we wanted to drop on with that was that the capacity to do things differently is shown through our social and cultural add-ons that we have.
Like what?
Excursions.
Yep.
Or most valuable player, where two sides are brought together.
Yep.
Nominate. So that was two things.
Yep, excellent. Thank you. Well done.
Yeah, we basically the same thing.
Yeah, so the same thing around the experience of the whole event. And we see the whole event as not just being the field of play, all the bits that go before it and the bits that go after it. We also
Sorry, I was just going to say the point of difference is the culture of the events.
The culture of the events, yeah.
School Sport Australia seems to have, or school sport has the well-being of the child at the centre of what we do. Outside of school sport, sometimes their focus is more about the well-being of the sport, the club, the success, and our well-being of kids starts even the kid that doesn't make it to this level. They just play on a Friday afternoon at school, where we provide the transport, we provide the time. Parents don't have to get involved in that, so it's about looking after them.
Yep. And how are you going to talk about that or rock that? What would you do?
Someone else answered that one.
It's like the kid who wrote down, I don't know, and the kid next to him wrote down, I don't know either.
It's like, almost like you spoke about how Martin Luther King's speech, how the word of mouth spreads that. Like any kid that goes and experiences one of these events and goes back and talks to that circle of friends, and then the next year that's no more participation. More people willing to be invested and see the work and all of that.
Yep.
Work has to be fun.
And I think we need to highlight what Nicole's talking about this morning, that base level. We start back, there's thousands of kids who don't get to this level of sport, but they're still part of school sport. Yep. That's where it starts, and those kids are part of our program as well. And not just the top 15 or the top 12 we take away.
So everybody's involved in that, in the whole community.
Yeah.
Yep. Excellent. I've been pumping you guys up, so it better be good.
They listen to everything we said.
We're 3 hours ahead of you.
So yeah, we actually did pick up on the culture of the championships. It's not just sport focus, it's that word's been said all afternoon. About the kids, the educational exponent of that. We kind of went a bit way out in the rock bit.
Excellent.
I don't know how far to go, but getting the kids involved in decision making and planning of the event. If we listen more to the follow up after the championships for the following year.
Excellent. So the students actually being involved in actually trying to put on the event or help with elements of it.
Yeah, like student officials.
Yep.
Yeah, because normal sports you don't have student officials.
Yep, absolutely.
We also hit on that. Somebody else said that we feel our events focus on the kids and not on the actual event of the winning. Well, I mean, you do focus on winning, but the actual well-being of the kids is a major part of what we actually do.
Yep. Yep. Excellent. What's really interesting to me about this, and I was sort of kind of hopeful that it would come out, is that all of you are kind of talking about a similar thing. You're talking about,
Seriously, we're pretty excited.
Victoria, my second home state.
Sorry, Ned.
Sorry, guys.
We thought we had a point of difference about all these points of difference.
Good.
We think that the thing that makes us really different is that we've got access to teachers, and that those teachers, and this was how we sort of summed it up, we think they get it. So having access to teachers and they get it was kind of our slogan. And that in terms of rocking our difference, we thought that one of the things that could be really important is organising or placing or finding a way to get teachers in stakeholder positions.
Excellent.
So government, SSOs, NSOs, those sort of things, because they get it.
Yep. Excellent. Good. And what you're saying is I think sort of a similar, kind of a similar thing. The thing that is really interesting is what you're talking about is education, and the culture around the sport of participation in the school base. The challenge is how you really clearly articulate so people go, wow, it really is different. And to me, the thing that, because I'm a fairly simple kind of person, to me the thing that is instantly different about school sport is education. So we're the people who actually bring education into every single thing that we do, and we bring learning and we bring future development into everything that we do. So I'll jump back a few slides. So what I had So when I went through and thought about this, our athletes get an education that they just don't get at any other sporting event. So sure they get sport, and sure and so the challenge in this is that you think, well, I want to kind of be all inclusive. I want to talk about the sport, and I want to talk about how wonderful our coaches are and how wonderful the environment is. The reason I put that focus slide up is because you need to focus on one thing to tell your message and to have something to stand behind. And to me, you've all talked about it, but as an organisation, as a group, it's not something that we communicate really well. It's not something, in my opinion, that as an organisation, we stand up on our platform and say, this is what we do that's really different. And to me, it's just a massive and critical point of difference, particularly in an environment where everybody's, governments and other organisations are really concerned about and worried about and thinking about how phys ed and how physical activity can be more strongly ingrained in our schooling system and in our everyday lives. And this organisation has got it in spades, because you're integrating sport with education and you're doing it better than anybody else. No one else can claim that. People like the AFL can say we're doing education, but it's not believable. It's believable from this group because you've got the underlying credentials of teachers and schools and education already implanted in everything that you do. And my recommendation and my thought would be to say, stand up and talk about that. Everyone knows about the sport, but let's stand up and talk about the fact that we're great educators, that kids get a life education. It's not just about sport, they get educated through sport when they become part of this group and this organisation. And so, a campaign might be, learn to play the game of life. Learn about life when you come to a school sport event. And how do you tailor that message to parents? How do you tailor that message to kids? And I'll talk about that in a minute. Right? But learning the game of life, or a play on words like that, actually starts to talk about what it is that you really do that's actually different about the experience. And a few groups talked about culture. To me, the culture that's really ingrained is that learning, is the excursions, is the stuff that's periphery to the sport. And it's like, some of you have heard me talk before and talk about McDonald's. McDonald's is not about the food, right? Because on a scale of dog food to 7-star dining, McDonald's is, depends who you are, right? But it's not about the food. It's about, on a long road trip, it's about a gutful of getting something to feed. It's about the happy meal. It's about the McCafe while the kids go and play in the playground. It's about a safe environment that is always the same, right? And this is the same, right? Your organisation is the same. It's not, sure, the sport is there, but it's not really about the sport. It's about all the stuff that happens around the sport. It's about the friends that they make. It's about the education they get. It's about the experience they get from going somewhere else. It's about the new people they meet and going to a different place and going to see the museum at the MCG or whatever else it is. Those will be the things that they talk about, because they get the sporting experience from other places, but they can't get the life experience. One of my favourite, I love quotes if you haven't worked it out already, and this is John Wooden, who for the basketball people in the room will know was the coach of UCLA in the 50s and 60s, and won I think 11 out of 13 or 14 NCAA championships, which is equivalent of winning 11 AFL grand finals in a 14-year period. So it was quite an achievement. And his philosophy was, as a coach, what you are as a person is far more important than what you are as a basketball player. And I think that is the essence of what what this group and this organisation does. What people walk away, or students walk away with, far more than just being good sports people. They walk away being good people, or being great people. And so how do you make that? If education is really your thing, how do you go, we are so different to everybody else that we just can't, you can't compete. So there's the things such as student and parent forums, which you can engage in. Academic All-Australian Awards, so all the US colleges all have Academic All-Americas, as well as Sporting All-Americas, who celebrate education within the sports. Coach education, so building all the periphery around education. And so often you know, because of, and I can't remember who said it over here before, because you've got this fantastic alumni of all of these people who've come through sport, and I know a few of them through Nick, but there must be, you know, 10, 20, 30, 100 who are Olympians, who have been through school sport. Get those people to come back and talk about their experience and educate the coaches. Let's not think about just, you know, with no disrespect to anyone who's already doing it, let's think, who's the best coach in the world? Let's bring that person out to talk about coach education. Who's the best, who's the best person at integrating sport and education in the world? Let's get that person out. Right? Who's the best person to speak about the future of sport to parents? Let's find that person and bring them. Let's blow people's mind around what we can do from an education perspective around our sport. I'm not saying that's what we have to do, but I'm saying it's a different way of thinking about emphasising our point. Because when we do that, people start to take notice. Wow, the School Sport Australia, you know, basketball event has got, you know, Michael Jordan coming to speak. Wow, that's interesting. That's news. That's front page news, right? Maybe it's not Michael Jordan, but maybe it's someone in the basketball world who has got some cachet in another sport, who's a world champion, or who's someone that we can get to really expand people's minds about what we do, because that cachet rubs off. When you have a person of that calibre, it rubs off on everything else that you're doing, and it gives credibility to the brand. And this brand already has loads of credibility because of the base of education that we have. You know, invite a world sport leader to speak about success to the kids. Right? Someone who is a world leader in sport, about, you know, how sport makes a difference to them. So what I'm, you know, every every kid gets a book to give to their parent about how this event has inspired, you know, your child to be, you know, better educated. Allow the parents to understand how sport makes a difference to them. So what I'm saying to you here is, I'm not necessarily saying you have to do this. What I'm saying is, let's think about what our core difference is, and I, you know, we've sort of captured it here. It's about our culture and what we do, but it's really about education. That's a thing that absolutely makes us different. Let's celebrate that and think about how we move forward.
Yeah. You haven't convinced me yet that that's our difference.
Who else in sport does it?
Well, we just had Nicole Livingston here this morning telling us that swimming are doing this, athletics are doing it. They've got their rock stars that come in and talk. They're doing coach education at a whole other level. I haven't seen the real point of difference yet, because sports are not stupid. If you're involved in basketball, Lauren Jackson's just retired. I've got a kid in the ACT. They're going to go and listen to a teacher who does a very fantastic job looking at the holistic person of Lauren Jackson's clinic on basketball. It's a no-brainer.
Sure. So what
I'm not sure that I've got the difference yet.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if you asked a parent who's better, who's got more credentials in educating my child, is Basketball Australia or School Sport Australia? I would say School Sport Australia 10 times out of 10. I get what you're saying about the person, but let this organisation be the organisation that brings that person to the fold. I'm not saying that it's that you are the only people thinking about this, right? It's just like McDonald's. There's lots and lots of fast food places. McDonald's are only a little bit different to the guys next to them, right? But that little difference makes all the difference in the world. And it's because you've got a platform of credibility underneath you that allows you to build on top of it, right? Sports are doing that because they're doing a better job than we are of promoting those people. That's my point.
I mean, Chris has just triggered my mind off a bit, but our point of difference is we try and do it across 20 odd sports. Basketball does basketball, swimming does swimming. We're trying to cover the whole gamut. That's one of our big points of difference.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. So I'm not saying...
Sorry, just to add to that. So maybe we don't need to try and do it all alone.
Sure.
You know, there's an Australian Sports Commission, or there's an Olympic Council that kind of, they're probably the only ones covering a wide range of sports. So maybe we look at how can we collaborate with them.
Yeah. So I know I'm a couple of minutes over, Nick. I'll be 2 minutes. Great. That's what I want you to think about, right? I'm not saying, you know, I think you can build a platform around this, but I'm not you know, you guys are the ones that need to think about this. And some of your points are right. There are other people doing it. So how do we be different? That's the point. Nick asked me to do a couple of things. So the take-home message. That's a take-home message, right? Watch that video. People don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it. You'll hear it 10 times in the Simon Sinek video. People care about the why. They don't care about the what, because lots of people are doing the what. Everyone in sport is doing the what. It's the why that makes a difference. And lastly, the key challenge to the group is get a clear, compelling message. Right? Get a message that resonates. Get a message that everyone in this room can say the same thing. I'm involved in school sport. School sport does this. And if everyone is on the same page, it just makes the message so much more powerful. So I'm over time. Thanks, Nick, and thanks everybody.
Just give a bit of background of why we've got Safe Schools talking to this at this conference this year. Is at School Sport Victoria, and it's probably happened in every jurisdiction. We've had more and more. We're getting more calls about. We've got a transgender student, mostly from primary school. We're getting it at the moment in Victoria, but we do have our secondary school kids. And it was a contact, I think through Roz at Safe Schools Coalition Victoria, that I actually met with them, and with our legal branch as well, and Department of Education, and found out that Safe Schools has a branch basically in every state and territory just about around Australia, and they have a teacher PD. So it was Joel and I've forgotten the other lady's name.
Mel? Roz.
No, it wasn't Roz. I know it wasn't Roz.
Mel.
Yeah, Mel, thank you. And they came and did a PD for our staff. And we're actually thinking we'll do it, haven't teed this up yet, with our region coordinators. So that brought me to be writing a draft policy, which I can talk to you about later, but this is an old draft now, because I was literally talking to our legal people yesterday.